Hello, what's going on everyone? And welcome to another video. And in this one, we're going to be taking a look at the queue. So I remember that the last one we did was actually queue, okay? And it was actually a fantastic video. So in this one, we're going to be taking a look at that of the queue, okay? Remember, I just mentioned that the queue. So the first one was actually queue, and this one is actually called the queue, okay? And both of them are actually part of the data structures, okay, that we've been taking a look at. We've taken a look at lists, we've taken a look at sets, dictionaries, and then the other ones, even tuples, okay? So we're taking a look at the queue in this particular one. Then if you don't know what actually the queue really means, it's sometimes they normally actually call this double-ended queue, okay? So it's actually a data structure that allows insertion and deletion of elements from both ends, okay? Both the front and then the rear, okay? So remember that the rear is just the back. You understand that? So that's just the thing. So what we want to do right now is basically go ahead and then implement this right now by writing some code. So I'm going to just create a new file for this. So if I right click on here, I want to go to the new file and go to Python file. And let's go ahead and then call this Deque, like that. Okay, so we have that file right here open for us, and if we run this right now, we basically have nothing to actually show right there. So you see that down here is just basically empty. So what we want to do right now, remember this is actually an implementation of a Deque, and we're going to basically also use Deque from that of the collections module. Okay, so we did that in the last video, which is actually queue, and we basically imported the queue actually into our working environment from that of the collections. So we're going to do the same in this one. So I'm going to just do from collections, and what do we basically want to import? Okay, we're going to basically import the queue. But then before we do that, we need a keyword that is actually called the import, and we're going to just go ahead and then say the queue right there. Okay, so that's just basically what we want to import from this particular module right here. Okay, we want to import this into our working environment right here. Okay, and let me just put a comment at the top right here, and basically this is actually going to be the queue right there. Okay, so that's just what we have right now. So on the next line, what we basically want to do right now is that we want to create a variable. We could just call this something like the queue or whatever. We could call it something of this nature. Okay, but let me just use d, and I set that to be equal to the method called the queue. So this is the method right there. Okay, we're going to be using this. This is the variable. If we want to reference to this, we can use d. Okay, you can make use of any letter you want to use right there. Okay, but just make sure it's something that actually makes sense to what you want to do. So that's just that. So we have that right now. So the first thing we want to do is to learn how we can actually append an element onto the queue right here, right? But before we do that, let me just say, first of all, let me add a comment here and just say append elements onto the queue, just something of that nature. Okay, so I believe you know what I'm actually getting at. Okay, so I just want to add an element onto this right now, because if I do print right here, if I get down right here and just do print, and let's say let me throw in a message in here and just say something like let's go ahead and just say let's say we do just the queue after appending. Okay, so the queue after appending, and I just basically want to go ahead and then introduce, I bring in this particular variable right here called a queue. So if I save the changes right now, I'm just basically trying to print. I can alternatively remove this from here and then go ahead and then run this code. In fact, I'm going to run it this way. Okay, so if I run this like this, you see that we have the queue to be empty right here. Okay, so I just added that text in there just to kind of explain that to you guys a lot more. Because I'm going to add colon right here and then save that. If I run it again, you are going to see this text, but it's still going to actually be empty. Okay, so look at it, the queue after appending. That's the message that we have right there. Okay, so this is basically empty right now. Now the next thing I want to do right now is that down here we want to see how is it that we can actually add some elements to it. And then to add an element, we can use a method that is actually called the append. We've used this quite a lot of time. Okay, if you want to do it, it's really very simple. I'm sure that quite a good number of you can actually do that without me. But then let's do that together. If I do dots, a D right here, and then I do dots, I go ahead and then do append, which is the method that we basically want to use right here. Okay, so within this, what do we basically want to append onto the element? So let's say that we're going to just have something like write one, which is just basically the first element that I just basically want to append onto this right here. Okay, so I basically want to append that. Okay, so that's just the first one. I want to copy that and then paste that a couple more times right there. Okay, so this is the second one that I want to add. This is the third one, so I'm going to change this to 3 and then change this particular one to 4, and this is the fifth one right there. Okay, so I'm going to add 5 right there. Okay, so I want to cut this out of this particular place. I think we do not actually need it there anymore, and let's make sure we bridge these like that. Okay, so down here I want to print out that particular line in here. You are going to notice that if I save the changes right now and then try to run this code, so I'm going to run this right here, and if you take a look in here, you see the queue after appending, and then we'll have right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we now have 5 items in that particular list right there. Okay, or that particular DQ. All right, so that's just basically how we can actually enqueue or add some elements to that of our queue right there, our DQ element right there. But then remember that we said something in the definition, okay, that it's actually a double-ended queue. So that means that it can actually allow data to be added to them either through the front or through that of the rear. Okay, so we can add both sides. So with that, I established that all of the things that I have actually done here simply means adding items to the queue from that of the right. Okay, so that's just basically what I have just done. So we can actually change this message that we have in here and just say something like append an element onto the queue to the right. Okay, you can say to the right. And so we're basically going to see how we can also add an element right now through the other end. Okay, so this one actually it kind of started from the right. Okay, I'm just basically adding something from the right and then this is actually growing. But there can be a situation where you might actually want to add something that is actually come from the next end. Okay, so what that means that if you take a look at our result right here, instead of having the next item to actually start from down here, it's basically actually going to start from here. Okay, that just basically means that we are a kind of adding an item through the left hand side of the list, okay, or of the queue. Okay, so we're basically going to start that right now, and then we'll see how we can actually add an element from the left or from the rear. And to do it is really very simple. So what I want to do right now, if I copy this right now and I get down on the next line, and what I want to do is I'm going to use a different method that is actually called append left. Okay, so if I do append left right here, and then I go ahead and instead of doing right here, I'm going to just do left, just for you guys to understand that it's actually coming from the left. Okay, so I'm going to save the changes right now. And if we run this code, I think I need this. I'm going to just copy this down to the next line. And we're going to basically add a comment here at a later time. Let me just paste this and just say the queue after, let's say, appending to the left. Let's just say something like that. After appending to the left. Okay, so let's save the changes right now, and then if we run this code right now, you're going to see what is going to happen. So let's take a look at this from here. Okay, so if you take a look at that, you see that left starts the stuff right now. You see how I'm basically adding an element to the left right here. Remember, the first one that we did was we kept on adding to the right, and it were actually coming in. So if I for instance, if I copy this, sorry about this, just want to copy that and then paste, and then also paste again. I want to do left 1, 2, and then also 3 right here. Okay, so watch how this thing is actually going to happen. It's basically going to start with this, followed by this, and then followed by this one. Okay, so we're going to first of all see this. You see how I'm just basically, it's actually going towards the left right now. Okay, so let's run this right now. And if you take a look in here, you see that we added 3, we added 2, and then we added this one right here. Okay, so that's just what it means by we being able to add something to both the left and then the right hand side. That's why it is actually called a double-ended queue. Okay, so you can add through both sides of the what is it called, of the queue right there. Okay, so if you want to also experiment with this, and then you go ahead and paste right here, and let's say we change this one to 6 right here. Okay, if you are going to see that it's going to get added through the right. So after 5, it's going to actually come in. So I want to run this, and if you take a look at that, you see that, let me just move this a little bit away. You see that we have right 6 added to that particular place. So this is just a proof of how we can actually perform insertion and deletion of elements from both ends. Okay, so I know quite sure that what we have just done so far is to just append or add an element. Okay, so we haven't actually deleted yet, And that's just basically what we're going to do next. Okay, right here, let's just put comment in here and just say append elements to let's say to the left right here. Okay, to the left. Okay, remember the first one we did is to append element to the right? So that's just the first one that we did right here. Okay, and we'll be able to print that out right here. So the next one we have just done is to append elements to the left, and then we'll have that printed out right here. So the next thing is how we can actually delete. Okay, how do we delete some elements, either from the left or from the right? All right, so let's go ahead and then put something like a comment right here. And we're going to just say pop elements, and we're going to just say from the right. Okay, so we're going to pop element from the right. Remember that the definition says you delete and then you also insert from both ends. So it's possible. Let's do that down here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just, let me copy this and paste that on the next line. And what I want to do, I want to just say something like, let's change this information right here to something like popped from right. Okay, so I just say something like a pop from right. Okay, and what I want to do with this is really very simple. Okay, so to pop an element, we're going to basically make use of a method that is actually called a pop. So right here, remember that we have this variable available up there. So if I take you to the tab, you see that we have this available right there, right? So I want to just append the method that is actually called a pop. So to do that, I'm going to just do dot pop like that. And we can, if we go ahead and then run this right now, you're going to see that we're going to actually pop from basically the right. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's go ahead and then do that right now. So if I right click here and then go ahead and then run this, I want to notice what is going to happen right now. Okay, so it says pop from the right. And then if you take a look at our result right here, you see that we have 6, the right hand side, at the extreme right hand. Okay, so that is just why it popped this particular one right now. Okay, so just imagine that as it's actually popping. If I pop the next one, is actually going to pop this. So you see how it's actually popping from the right. Okay, so you see actually how it's basically popping that from the right. So if you want to run that again, you can actually do that. However, let me just run this again one more time. Okay, so you just basically pop the first one. But then if we want to see like what is actually remaining from that particular pop, we can copy basically this. If we copy this right now, and then we get down to this particular place down here and paste that. I want to save the changes. We basically may not even need all of these things anymore, guys. I think it's time to me to just comment these out, and also the one that is actually there before now, which is actually this one. I think we need to also comment this out, and that should be it right now. Okay, so I don't want to have those 2 lines right there. However, I just basically want to see what is remaining after I pop. Okay, so I'm going to just save these. Yeah, so let's go ahead and run this. And then if you take a look at what is basically remaining right now, you're going to see that we have the queue. What is after we popped this particular line, it remains only all of these things that you are seeing right here. Okay, so because we popped that first one, and if we want to pop the second one, we can also copy this and then put it on the next line. And if we save that, then run, you're going to notice that we also popped 5 right now. Okay, so we just popped 5. And if you take a look at what is actually remaining, these are the things that are remaining right now. Okay, so we have only right 4, right 3, and then right 2, and then right 4. I'm the right one right here. Okay, and that is just that on how to really pop an element from the right. So the next thing I know that you guys actually are going to want me to do is also how to pop element from the left. So if you want to do that, it's really very simple, almost the same method. Okay, almost the same way that we popped from the right. However, we are just basically going to need to change this particular method right here. Instead of making use of a pop, I'm going to just make use of a pop left. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and then on the next line right here, what I want to do, let me just put a comment right here and just go ahead and just say the queue after popping from the left. Okay, so let's say the left, right, from the left right there. Okay, and then if I want to do that, I'm going to just paste what I already have, and instead of doing this, I'm going to just basically change this pop left. So this is going to be left like that, and let's change this to left. Okay, so change that to left, and again we're going to basically want to see what is actually remaining after we pop. So I'm going to just copy this and maybe even cut that. We do not actually need that right there. Or do we need that? Let me just still leave that right there. But then down here, I want to paste that line, okay? So this is going to be the queue after we pop. After, so I know that I kept my cursor on that particular place. So right here, I just basically want to delete this, and then after we pop, okay? So after pop, so I want to right click on this, run that again, and we're going to notice something right here. Say pop from the left, which is this particular line right here. Okay, say pop from the left. And if you take a look at our original stuff right here, okay, you see that left is the first thing in here. Okay, so if we are popping, it's actually starting from the left hand side and then starting from the one that is at the initial stage. So it pops number 3 for us, and what is remaining right now is what we have down here. So we have left 2, left 1, then before getting into this particular one right here. Okay, and I know that this is a kind of a tricky for you guys to actually understand, but if you take a look at this from time to time, you're going to actually grasp what I'm trying to actually explain to you guys. Okay, so that's just basically how to experiment with that of the queue. Okay, and just the definition says that you can actually add and then remove an element just from both ends. Okay, this is just the experiment of how we can actually add an element from both ends. Okay, so it makes use of a deque from the collections, which I've actually already shown you guys. So if you scroll to the top, you see how it makes use of a deque from the collections. Okay, module. Okay, then if you want to start deleting, let's say we want to delete from the right, we use pop. Okay, then for you to now start deleting from that of the left, we use pop left. That's just basically the summary of that. And then I hope that you guys understand that. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye bye for now.